Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. Electrifying.
Yes, guys, welcome back to the instant reaction. 1-0 at Old Trafford. No matter what happened, no matter how we did it, no matter all the stuff we're going to get into, we've won on opening day in the Premier League, and that is a massive 3 points for Arsenal at Old Trafford. I think, Simon, we haven't won. I'm sure we'll get the proper stats later, but our record there is really, really poor. 2 wins in 16 years. So a massive 3 points. We're back on the instant reaction. I'm back with my boy George, whose hair is looking glorious. We're both on our new setups. We're looking good and looking forward to the season. So thank you for joining us on the instant reaction. Make sure you like and subscribe if you're new here. Let's get into it. George, my heart rate is just about coming down. I think I said before the season, I want more games where we don't merit to win, but win anyway. And sometimes, what's that phrase? You get what you need, but not what you ask for, whatever that phrase is. I wanted that, and I hated it. But how are you feeling?
My big thing on X as soon as I posted was a win is a win is a win. And my favorite part of this performance was absolutely nothing to do with the performance. It was the fact that we finally got a jammy win, something that we didn't deserve to do. And that's important. That is something that this team has been criticized for doing for far too long. I mean, there's definitely stuff we got to get into in terms of the performances, in terms of some of the intent that we were seeing, but very also unorthodox mistakes, I will admit. Like, I mean, you know, especially kind of the first 5, 10, 15 minutes, I just felt, wow, this team's not comfortable. You know, Zubamendi gets an elbow to the face from Mbeumo in the first 30 seconds on the very first break, and he isn't in the game for at least 20, 30 minutes at that point. There's a lot of like major like deer in headlight moments. And, you know, this is probably the best time to do this at this point. This is the time that we need to get these kind of cobwebs out. The one thing that I do hear from people is, you know, it's great to jam wins, but that doesn't breed confidence when, you know, you haven't seen it become a pattern. And, you know, we're looking at things right now and trying to react in like the very first game. But for me, as far as I'm concerned, Old Trafford win. That's it. I'm shutting up as far as that. And sometimes one of those times where you just got to say, okay, you know what? 3 points is 3 points. And it wasn't good. But we'll move from there. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah,
maybe we can move on to the analysis because I suppose we've sort of done our headlines in here. Am I just definitely checking I'm on this mic? Yeah, you can hear that. Perfect, cool. I've got a new wire. I think probably my headline is something along the lines of what we've been speaking about, isn't it? It's that sense of, look, we went and got the win, and I think we are going to speak about some issues in the game, but actually the last 25 minutes we were not at the rate. You know, Declan Rice. Really poor today. Yeah. We love Declan Rice. We always talk about, don't we, how he often starts season slowly, and I hope he can get into things. As you said, Zubamendi I thought was non-existent for periods of the game. I thought Saka, even he seemed to have Dorgu on toast and didn't quite know what to do with it once he got through it. So a lot of players, you sort of go, there's some issues there. But that's allowed. Players are allowed to have bad games. Our issue has been when players are down, what do we do? And actually, I thought the last 20 or so minutes, we handled the game really well. Gary Neville said something on commentary, and I agreed with him, which is not that common. And he was talking about how we handled the game and how we dealt with it. And it felt like a mature dealing of a situation where we weren't at the races. And actually, I think we deserve some credit for that. Let's get into the first half then. Just a reminder of the new setup for these interactions. We'll do first half, second half, then look at numbers, then individuals. And at the very end, we'll come to all your super chats and questions. So make sure you get them in. We'll come to all of them at the end. I thought you were right in terms of what you said. Sort of the first 10, 15 minutes felt like a really scrappy game. It felt like United were up for it. I think United this season, if they lean into that physical side of their game, lean into the running, I think they're going to be open, but I think they're going to be a problem for certain players. You know, if you look at the individual qualities, and Brian and Mbeumo today, oh my goodness me, what could have been? Cunha looked fantastic, I thought, but they really look physically up for it. And it's very easy to say, oh, we weren't ready. I just thought United did really well, and I think they probably were fouling us. They were right on the edge of it. They were playing on the Old Trafford thing. They were right on it, and I think it took us some time to get into the game. My main issue in that first half, George, the transition work in terms of controlling transitions and also our transition work was not good enough. We were so poor when the ball was moving quickly through the thirds both ways. I think when we have possession, I look at our running lines and the way we're getting into each other's spaces. It doesn't feel like Gyökeres is quite being used in the right ways. It feels like Martinelli isn't quite he's either pulling too wide, we can't judge passes, we can't quite get it. Martin Odegaard looks fitter, but it feels like he's either releasing too late or releasing too early. There's lots of stuff there in terms of our transition work, which I'd love to hear your thoughts on, but also controlling it. I'm going to get killed for this, and I don't care. Sun in your eyes, difficult. As a defender, genuinely, and I don't care what people say about that. I think that is a factor. However, the much bigger factor, I just think Saliba and Gabriel had a bit of an off day in terms of dealing with things. I think Rice had a bit of an off day. I think we struggled to judge when to go forward and when to drop back. If you have a Calafiori on, we're probably used to playing with the Miles. Rice needs to be a little bit more cautious. I think we judged it very well. So those are my sort of overall thoughts on the first half. Curious on your takes.
Well, the irony is that our fullbacks were our best players in the first half, Calafiori and Ben White. Especially I thought Calafiori, beyond the goal, he was doing really good job about trying to get us out, play with a little bit more intensity, and put his foot on the ball himself. The issue is we were playing a volleyball game. I was in group chats, and it was a case of, that meme where it's like they've got the whole field, and they've got little squiggly lines about you have to get from here to here, and you don't care about the little bit in between.
Yes.
And there was
I know the exact meme. I'll show it. Hang
on. I feel as though both teams, to a certain extent, had a bit of that, and it played into United's hands. And it really frustrates me. The one thing that I will say is I don't know. That is the exact meme.
Yes,
that is the one. And I really look back, mate, and I get frustrated by our Old Trafford performances now for years at this point, because I feel that we play into their game every single time. It doesn't matter whether we play them at the end of a season, in the middle of the season, at the very first game. We allow ourselves to play to the fixture, and we don't play to our own game. One thing that I hate, by the way, the freaking halftime interviews. But Martin Odegaard's like, they're playing too easy through us. And I mean, that is not something you associate with Arsenal. You can say a lot of things. We can criticize Mikel and the team for a lot. Playing through us as a team is nigh on the worst in the league. It is impossible. We don't give opposition shots. We don't do that. And when you start listing Gabriel, Saliba, Declan, Zubamendi taking 30 minutes to get in the game, mate, that's your entire core center. When they're not having a good game like that, then you're not going to be able to put your foot on the ball. And by the way, I felt like David Raya makes one or two really brilliant saves and one or two really baffling decisions, like incredibly baffling decisions on the ball that I don't normally associate with him. So it was one of those where I was like, oh God, I really just hope that we get something in and we really rely on our defensive solidity. I don't even think I ever saw it. We did seem to be playing a little bit on the edge, but one thing I loved was a proactive substitute for Mikel at around the 60th minute in terms of rotating our fullbacks. And that's going to be something that I feel we do use quite a bit. When you look at the Calafiori and the Ben White pairing, and then you look at Miles and the Timber pairing, I think we need to be a lot smarter in terms of where the game goes. So we've got to a point in which we're 1-0 up at about 60 minutes. To close out a game, we need to have a setup to close out a game. And I think that, Norgard probably would have got on if he wasn't injured and he wasn't in the squad. And, it was one of those where I have so many questions in terms of the performance. But when the most basic thing about us, controlling transitions and being able to not play through Arsenal, is not happening, I hold my hands up and I start to say, you know what, This is one of those where, can I do it? Can I say that it was too hot in Manchester? Like, it's one of those where you start looking, because the most basic things just aren't going your way. And that's truly how I felt. I really didn't feel that we did too much right, bar maybe our fullbacks who played well in the first half there. And I do think towards the end, the one person I'll really highlight is I thought Martin Odegaard ran his socks off. I don't think that everything came off from him on an individual level, especially in possession and what he was doing in transition and releasing the ball. But as far as the press, I actually don't think we maintained to win that game without his endeavor. Like, he leads the press and the pressure, and he allows us to breathe by not breathing himself and running excessively. So that to me was, incredible, actually. Like, he was running back into the 95th minute, pushing United back almost single-handedly when our press wasn't working today.
Yeah, I thought Odegaard, I agree. Some of the execution was off. I think I've got his game by numbers, but in terms of he looks fit. And that's a key thing. You know, at the very, very end, you have Noni Madueke, who I haven't seen it back, so I can't remember exactly what happens, but I think he just fluffs his line slightly. But I'm certain part of it is Bruno Fernandes in the 90 whatever minute in his own box as a captain, and you need that from your captain. It's a bit in the Premier League at the minute. I think it's huge. So Martin Odegaard's game by numbers: 63 touches, 25 final third passes, 7 possessions won, 5 duels won, 5 clearances, 4 touches in the opposition box, 3 successful take-ons, 2 shots, 1 shot on target, and a chance created. When we were criticizing him last year, one of the things that I know both of us kept saying was, if it's a fitness issue, fine, let's get him fit and let's see. And if this is a sign of things to come, I think maybe the execution in possession we have seen, and hopefully can start putting it together. I felt maybe in the second half, I did feel, maybe I'm projecting as a fan, I felt some nerves from certain players. It felt like Noni Madueke, I think, was nervous. He was rushing clearances and things like that. And I felt maybe Saliba and Gabriel didn't quite have their feet under the table at points in the game. I wonder if this is a game later on in the year that we approach quite differently, because I think this is not a very common, for me, this is not going to be a very common game that Arsenal play this season. I think, you maybe look at the Forest or whatever, but a game where the progression's happening wide for the other team in terms of obviously the wing backs, etc., in terms of the running game, in terms of a brand new Cunha, brand new attack at Old Trafford, etc., is a bit of a unique one for us. And I would have loved to see maybe in November or December, when we got our feet under the table, how we dealt with that, how we actually matched that up. It just felt like a game where we just needed to just get through. And as we say, George, mate, we got through it. And this is like, we have to say as fans, I hope no one listening thinks we're hiding from the issues. There were big issues today, but this is a game that we would have lost last year, I believe, or drawn. And there was, and we're already 2 points up on last season, right? Because we drew at Old Trafford. And there was a moment, George, I'm sure you felt it too. Benjamin Šeško's coming on. United are sort of in the ascendancy, and I was thinking, this is going down the toilet. And I can't face that instant reaction. But we got through it. Let's have a look at the numbers then from, as always, our boy, Mr. Scott Willis. 1 goal, 1.5 expected goals for Man United, 22 shots to 9, 7 shots on target for them. This is always us, isn't it? This is always the other way around. 61% possession for the 38 to them. They had more passes, they had more final third entries, they had more a similar expected threat, they had more deep touches, they had more zone 14 touches, they had all the share of the numbers, but we managed to do it. And we had that big, basically created, what's that? 0.25 XG between the 14th minute and the end. Good Lord. There's the shot map. United getting a lot of shots off. I think, as we mentioned earlier, Cunha and Mbeumo looked absolutely fantastic today. And I think with not playing in Europe, I think it's going to be a big thing for them, because their game thrives off energy. And we're not winning the Field Till World Championships. And George, I don't care. I do not care.
How could you say that?
I know.
That's your most shocking take. If no one pulls him up on that, that is ridiculous. How can you not care on the USP of the Cannon podcast?
What's the point?
Do better, Alex. Do better.
Get him out. He's been away for a week and he's lost it. Before we come on to maybe some individual performances, I'm stopping short of showing the league table. I do think getting off to a start, like it's kind of one of those slightly Roy Keane, get off to a good start and get your front foot forward or whatever. Is there a world, George, and this is a very positive spin on this game, is there a world where this is kind of best of both worlds? Because if we go to Old Trafford, blow them away and look absolutely fantastic, maybe there's not overconfidence, but we're not focusing too much on the issues that we did have. Here we've kind of got the 3 points, but we're aware we need to step it up, and maybe there's a reaction next week.
I don't think this fan base will be satisfied until we get a trophy regardless. Like, you could have given me a 3-1 Old Trafford win where we're barnstorming and it's incredible. And it's one of those that is like, well, the preseason was pretty poor, but that was one of the better performances. And then it goes into this where it was genuinely a really horrid performance and the result is great. And you could take it one of two ways. And I'm going to take it that it is August 17th. And I just got a win at Old Trafford and F them. I don't like them. I feel like this is a fixture that we don't play the game to. And I mean, for me, it's more about the intangibles. in this match, and I hate to do it, but it is about how much you want it. It is about those things when you start facing your rivals, your true sporting rivals, who have just got an entire new front line, who are up for it. And, I think Mbeumo is brilliant. I am incredibly jealous of that transfer. I think that, you have a look at this United front line. This is not United in 12th. I have said it for a while. They have bought a front line that gets them Europe minimum. That's like the baseline for
one game a week as well.
Yeah, and it's what they can do from there. But in terms of focusing on Arsenal, mate, like some of the things that we needed to do, I thought we did actually fairly well in this match. And one of those was our decision-making in transition to be early and punching it through. I don't think we always got it off because I think people's runs weren't being found exactly right, but the speed to which we were able to transition was brilliant. The manner in which we're able to have, yes, a jammy win, which I thought was significant. We couldn't remember the last time that we did that. Now we've got that on the first game of the season. Yeah. And yeah, mate, like it's 6 games in 6 that were unbeaten in the league against United. And I think it's something like our 3rd win out of like 18 against Old Trafford. Like there are some times and some teams and some stadiums where you hold your hands up and say, look, I'm not good enough, but I've just got to perform. I'm so tired. I've got to sit through and get through this test, this exam, this date, whatever analogy you want to get through. It's not your day. You get there and you pull it out the bag. And you know what? I'm walking away with 3 points. And that is all that I am saying right now, because it's another time where Calafiori has brought up major points. And I did want to highlight him in general because he is a player that I feel, and I've said this a couple days before on X, Calafiori, people don't want to hear it, if fit, could be a maverick for this football club.
I think people do want to hear that, to be clear, George.
Well, maybe not, because it's just like, oh, here we go. It's such an Arsenal thing to say that a defender and a left back is potentially a maverick. But it's more in the sense that this is a guy that we haven't seen. And, he has consistently come up in big moments. Like, mate, like no matter what you can say about that player, the talent's incredible. He hasn't been fit. But then you look at it, how many big moments are we talking? Old Trafford, City. Like, this is a guy.
The Wolves game, we were chasing it 0-0, I think it was.
Yeah.
Big game in the title race, yeah.
And the reason I want to highlight it, mate, is because he is younger than Saka. We don't understand, like, this to me is a potential big leader. And when I start to look at the pattern about how many times he rises when the team is struggling, it's becoming a very consistent theme. And that is a massive weapon because we don't have too many players that can change our mood. I feel like we have tons of options to change a game, opposition. People ask us different questions. We have things to discuss that. But when Arsenal aren't playing well, when Arsenal are in one of their moods where they want to shoehorn, U-shape, they want to beat themselves, we don't have very many players that say, hold on, I'm going to do something different. Follow me. And I felt that quite a bit in terms of Calafiori's performance today, especially under the consideration that you've got Saliba, Gabriel. Saliba, more so than Gabriel, I thought had a really tough game. And then Declan Rice, who I thought I just have to keep it 100. I don't think he had a great game. I don't think he was timing his jumps well in terms of the press. And, if United had an 8 that had any kind of ability to receive between the lines behind Declan Rice, we could have been in a lot more trouble. But again, regardless, there's so many things that I can sit there and critique, but I find myself praising the result, the mentality, and the ability to gain points when you don't deserve them. And that's kind of where I'm going to leave it, unless I start to see this over the course of like 5, 6, 7 games. So, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yep. Before we move on to comments and stuff, maybe just, because obviously you've mentioned Calafiori there. I don't really have any more. Maybe we just cover a few more individuals. I think we've sort of discussed Rice and Zubimendi. We discussed the fullbacks, etc., and the centre-backs. Saka, I never worry about him, but I still think there's a level to go for him as he sort of builds into this season. I hope we see that fairly soon. Really, George, though, I wanted to highlight the bench, and I want to read it out. Kepa, Havertz, Lewis Skelly, Madueke, Marino, Mosquera, Waneri, Timber, Trossard. That is a very different proposition. And I know we all want something, we all want more. and that's fine. But Kivior left out of the match day squad. Vieira left out of the match day squad. Lokonga left out of the match day squad. Zinchenko, I'm sure I'm forgetting people here. Here it was Norgard, Kivior, Zinchenko, Vieira, Hein, Nelson, Lokonga, and Jesus not in the match day squad. In terms of the ability to change games and the ability to have a deep squad, I think that's probably why, for example, Ben White went off then. I think it's going to be a massive thing this season, and I was really pleased to see that bench. I think this is the sort of thing where probably Ben White would have carried on till the end of the game, but actually you don't need to. Timber comes on, makes a big difference in my opinion. I think Timber looked really, really good. So yeah, I'm really pleased by that bench. And look, I think we're all looking at maybe as they go into Spurs or looking at Rodrigo and saying, can we get one more? But let's not forget that is one on top of 20 something. And we've got a really, really deep squad now that looks really, really good. And I was really pleased. I think Madueke had his best game, but I thought Havertz as an outlet, who was asking different questions of that Man United backline, I thought was good. And also a word for Victor Gyökeres. Look, he is a player that we've questioned in certain aspects. We've said our opinions on him many, many times. At the price that he is, for what he is, if you play to his strengths, there's a lot of upside. I thought he had some nice moments. I think we can do better learning to play with him. I think there was times we were asking him to drop deep. And I think back to goal, I think you saw a number of times against De Ligt. He was pulled out wide with Yoro, and he just, for me, that's just not where his game thrives. But shoulder to shoulder, he looks really strong. And there was some nice moments. There was a lovely clip ball to Martinelli down the sides. If we can get that better. Umir, who is the City fan who writes for BBC Sport, said something, and it was something along the lines of, if you have a player who is strong-footed, say, for example, a right-footed player on the right, that suits a player who runs in behind like a Gyökeres or a left-footed player on the left to play those passes. And I do agree that sort of inverted player, so at the moment that would be Odegaard on the right and Rice on the left. I wonder, another reason to change around Odegaard and Rice, right? To maybe suit Gyökeres, and that could be a step forward with him. But just a word on him before we move to some questions.
I thought he was out of the game. Not entirely his fault. Like, he was running and making himself available, and he didn't stop running, but we didn't really have a reference up top in that first half for me. And I think the point about like the strong-footed is just about getting the ball quicker to those channel runners, because when you rely on having movement, it's about how quick can you get the ball to them so that they can be isolated. And again, I just don't think that we played for him. I think, Gyökeres may have been out of the game, but then at the same time, I think he had one-on-one moment in which we played him in, and that you need at least 3 or 4 if you're going to be fair on playing to somebody's strengths like that. Again, it's kind of half of a Martinelli conversation. You're going to give him one chance and then kill him. No, that does not make sense to me. So I didn't feel as though he was a major part, but he was putting himself about. He definitely was competing with United's back line, and I think he was occupying people, which was good in a sense. We just didn't really get a major shot on target. And I think I just don't want us to play him how we play Havertz, and we need to play very differently. I mean, fundamentally, if you want Gyökeres to thrive, then you need to make sure that he's in conditions to thrive. And if you want him, like David Raya, pumping the ball up to him in order to be a backboard and a reference, like that's just not something he's going to ever do. So am I going to kill him for us using him in a way that doesn't make him thrive? No, like let somebody else be the backboard, let him run beyond, and you're going to see a very different threat. And I do hope that we play him in early. One thing you have to know with a Gyökeres is he gains power with distance. He isn't, poppy off the first 5 or 10 yards, but you start going 15, 20 yards, and you let him start running with pace. Let him run onto the ball instead of passing it to him. And right now we're still passing to him. We're hitting him as a target, whereas the target needs to be the space, and we need to trust Gyökeres to get there. And I think right now we're far too concerned with, in a way, protecting the numbers, because we were so poor with our possession, right? Like I think the entire team, I don't know, anyone that's played can know this. When you're having a bad game and the team's having a bad moment, you as a player tend to protect your numbers. And I felt like that from a lot of our players, and it wasn't helping our attack. So to me, that was more of the frustrating thing as opposed to maybe the individual, because he put himself about. I don't think he was very much in the game, but that was more of a fault of us and kind of our team in terms of trying to play into him.
Yeah, I think if we are to play, if I don't know how it's going to play out. My suspicion is there'll be a lot of rotation, but if we are going to play with him, we need to almost create a completely new model of that midfield of how things are going to shift for him, because right now it doesn't suit him in my opinion.
Do you know how we played, just really quickly, the Ben White Calafiori, and then we did the Miles Lewis Skelly and the Timber sub, which is when it got to a point. The reason for that sub was, okay, 20 minutes in, lock in. We need our lock in defenders to cut the wide moments because they were having joy out wide, right? United were pumping out wide really early to Cunha, to Mbeumo, mainly Mbeumo, to get them up the pitch. And we wanted our lockdown defenders to cut off that lane. That was a very proactive sub by Mikel. I'm looking at it. If you want to compete, get Havertz on for the first 60 minutes and let Gyökeres run at them in that back line in the last 20. If the game is stretched and they have to come on to you, that's a game in which Gyökeres is going to thrive. Not this dominate possession, try to, we didn't, but try to dominate possession, pump up long and work as a backboard. Like, it's just, you've got to be proactive and understand the style of the players, because we did that at fullback. We kind of needed to do that at striker, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think the fatigue aspect is a big thing as well, especially on a hot day when you see Gyökeres coming on last 15 minutes to run at you. That's going to cause you big problems.
Yeah.
Ryan says, don't need to squint to see Mbeumo and Cunha's quality. Yeah. Right now, and this is Madueke, what we're saying Madueke and Gyökeres versus Cunha, Šeško, and Mbeumo. I know it's not fair because it's not the same prices, but if you offered me a window, it's no contest for me that United have had a better window in terms of strengthening their forward line. So obviously we've spent, what would that be? Probably that's an £80 million difference. But I think we need an £80 million level of difference to match that. And I think you see what that brings to you, the fearlessness of those players, the intangibles, even the way they fight and compete. That Cunha in the corner with Saliba, he will just not give up. He would not give up, and you can maybe talk all you want about Cunha's attitude or whatever, but actually, I like that in a player as long as it's controlled. And I think you don't need to squint. And Brian Mbeumo look absolutely fantastic. I think ultimately he's going to thrive on the right, which is probably what really got the transfer, the red light, I guess. But yeah, he's a fantastic player. 610 Vegas, you've been asking for a jammy win. Good omen. Absolutely. I literally said it in a video on my channel this week. I was like, I want to not merit to win a game. And it wasn't fun, but we didn't. And I think, again, it's the sort of thing where if we're in 4 games time and we play every game like that, then you start to be concerned about it. But it is a good omen. And if we can turn how many times did we say in our season reviews, the Aston Villas last season, the Brightons, those games where you just need to dig in and win it. I also, it's funny because I noticed this because obviously we set up the instant reactions, and I often set up the instant reaction live stream sort of about 5 minutes before the end of the game. I've never had to change a title. I've never had to change the score. And think how long we've been doing instant reactions. Yeah. I've never had to change the score up there. I don't know where it is on your screen. That tells you something. One, how bad we are for late winners, but also how good we are at protecting a lead or a draw, whatever it might be. But changing game states in that last moment, I think is maybe something for us to have a look at. Thank you, 610. I think you said that twice. So I appreciate the double whammy. F. Simon Hooper. Also, Bruno is a rat. We looked really mid compared to what we could do at our best, but we'll take the 3 points from Old Trafford. I'm rapidly turning into the guy who looks like he's trying to protect the PGM well, so I'm not going to comment. But I actually thought Simon Hooper had quite well. I am going to comment. I thought Simon Hooper had quite a good game, personally. Thoughts? Go on, George. Crowd, please.
No, I did not think he had a good game.
There we go.
He was pissing me off.
The day you say a ref had a good game, I think someone.
I want to. I have nothing against the refs. I've refed myself before. I know how difficult of a job it is. But part of my frustration is here. I'll say it right now. First break, Mbeumo throws an elbow on Zubimendi. Nothing. And then 10 minutes later, we're throwing out yellow cards for ourselves for bumping into the players. It's just the hypocrisy of it. If you're gonna let that go, then let a lot go. The one thing I will say is at least the cards weren't coming out as much in the first half because there was a lot he let through. But yeah, no, I didn't think he had a great game. The one thing that maybe I can praise is that we didn't get screwed on VAR. There was a moment in which Saliba goes to ground in the second half at the top of the sixth. I think I would have burst a blood vessel if somebody was going to call that a foul on Cunha. But nonetheless, they have done it. So I will praise the little praise that I will give them. And that was that.
Nice. I feel like saying a referee had a good game is like saying you had fun at a funeral. Like, it's like it might be true, just don't say it. Jake, looking forward to this season's Insta reactions. Yes, Jake, thank you, good sir. Thanks for joining us. Absolutely no joy on offense, but the this is one of your lot. Absolutely no joy on offense, but the defense was locked. Yeah, I mean, defensively, I think we had some individually poor games, but actually, if you look at a lot of and there was a lot of chaos, but I think we dealt with it pretty. Like there was no. What were their chances? Like really, the Dorgu shot. I think Saliba should have covered that. Here we go, eyes closed. The Dorgu shot, and Cunha moment was crazy. And but then apart from that, it was a really good save from Raya. I can't remember them having like really clear cut shots. It was a lot of just like pot shots straight at Raya. So
Mbeumo had a couple like reverse passes that then ended up in like melees in the box, but didn't really result in a shot.
Yeah.
There was a couple like in the first half, Mbeumo has like a good pop shot, but it gets deflected, so it's not a shot on target. I think part of the frustration is I just looked at that and I've never seen us concede transition and distance that way. So that terrified me, and I go, that's just not us. Like conceding territory that much for an Arsenal team is like kind of unheard of. So that was more frustrating than the actual shots I think that they actually developed. And if anything, if you're a United fan, I'm sorry that you guys don't have men in the box ever. It's probably one of the biggest things in which you guys do a lot of really good work outside. But the one thing I would say is that you don't have enough people that crash the box. And so from that perspective, that works for us because I don't think we were tested ultimately, even though our territory and, distance and, the areas of the pitch we may have conceded, we just didn't see the shots on targets translate. And that's just because United don't put enough bodies in the box.
To put it into data terms, they had 7 shots on target with a total of 0.6 post-shot XG, and we had 3 shots on target with a total of 1.1 post-shot XG. So I think that tells you probably about that. Snob number seems like a combination of sharpness and away crowd nerves. I think we anticipated that given we never went very man-to-man. Long term, I'm not worried, but Anfield looks spooky with this in mind. Yeah, there are some tough games coming up. So our next game is obviously home to Leeds, which I'm hoping we'll be able to put in a pretty good performance there and look like ourselves. And then we're away at Anfield the following week. Then we're at home to Nottingham Forest before we're at home to Man City, and then go away to St James's Park. This sort of first run of 3 before the international break, Leeds and Liverpool. How are you feeling about
that? Liverpool is a big one. It sets the tone for the season, and I think that first and second, mate, like that is how you can assert your dominance. It's the first way that you can, and it's important. Again, Leeds, I want a performance. I'm going to be a lot more insistent on it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's harsh, but you look at that as a team in which you should be
home against a promoted team. Come on.
Yeah. Newly promoted team. I'm not really having performance was really bad and we've jammed a win. That now I'm like, okay, like I asked for it, but can you chill with it? and then, I think I get to Liverpool, and I do look at things in segments. So I just look at get a good performance in. Let's change some things, get our foot on the ball. And I want us back to kind of the domination in terms of field tilt and us having a little bit more creativity in the final third, and a little bit more impact and threat in general in terms of our play going forward. So yeah, and then Liverpool needs no major analysis. That one, when it comes, we all know how huge of a game that is. So
massive. Nearly 3,000 of you watching live. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. As always, we'll be here for, we used to say half an hour, but it's never half an hour after these instant reactions. Probably about 45 minutes to an hour after every single Arsenal game. Harish, thank you for your super chat. Can someone explain Arsenal's time-wasting antics? How is it acceptable to pick up 2 yellow cards for time wasting? Resisting sarcastic comments. What were the 2? They were Raya. What was the other one?
Was it Timber?
Timber. I don't remember the Timber one. I can't lie. Timber did get a yellow. I know Raya did get one, and I thought that was probably justified. I don't remember the Timber one. It's annoying, but also, to be honest, like I think as long as you manage these things and you're just you're careful with it, I think it's fine. Do you know the one I am slightly concerned about, and I'm cautious of saying this as if I'm saying like this is a narrative that's going to carry on definitely, and I'm really worried about it. It's just something I'm cautious of. I do think Miles, and this could be, you maybe will argue this is a narrative thing and this is all from the media. Miles has picked up a lot of yellows for silly fouls recently, and I do worry about him in the short term because I think he will be able to iron that out of his game. How much do you worry about that? And do you think that's a thing that they think? Because I know obviously they took him off. What was the Champions League game they took him off in? And obviously there was the Wolves thing, but sort of I feel like whenever I'm watching him at the minute that he just picks up a yellow quite regularly, and it's something I'm just having a look at. Let me see if I can substantiate that with numbers.
Well, I look back and I'd say how many of those are deserved yellows, and I don't think that a lot of them were deserved yellows. And it is leaning into a narrative thing. I'm worried about it, but I mean, Xhaka had that at the beginning for a lot worse in terms of, I feel like, had a couple really bad challenges, then got married with this. Every challenge is going to be a little bit harder. So I definitely don't worry about it. I mean, Miles is a physical player. He's going to play on the edge. To sit there and hamper that, I think, is wrong. And I don't even think he's gone overboard. I think there's maybe one or two times he's done it. And I mean, the one or two times that he's deserved his yellow card have been because it's on a breakaway and we ask players to do those things. So I haven't seen a pattern of him give away needless fouls, to be honest. And you're talking about a defender with like one of the best defensive duel rates last year. So you don't achieve that by not being controlled in your aggression. So to me, I think it's a worry that he's developing a narrative, though. 100%, I think that's a worry. But I think on the player, in terms of him being late to challenge consistently or not being able to duel effectively, that he picks up any yellows, no, I have no fears on him in general.
Yeah, it's funny because he is, but that's kind of his game, and it's like that Jack Wilshere thing, isn't it? It's like if you're going to play that game where you're taking that extra touch and just going into contact and stuff, you are going to risk certain things, and that is his game. 7 yellow cards last season. Something to keep an eye on, I think. My hands are cold. If we play like that versus Leeds, then I'm going to be cold.
Worried.
Is that a worried emoji?
I think so. Sweating.
Don't use emojis enough. What's your favorite emoji, George? You like a thumbs up.
I do.
You like it's such a dad. It's such a dad. Just one of these.
Thumbs
George, we're recording tomorrow.
Thumbs up.
Yes. No, we obviously spoke about the Leeds game. I think Leeds, we're both looking for a big performance, and I want to feel. I think one of the things I was waiting for was that feeling that we've got them pinned down, and I never felt we had that against United. And I haven't really felt that through pre-season. That thing, we've got them squeezed up. Gabriel and Saliba are there, and we're just controlling them and going back in. And I'm really interested in how we break those game states down, because that was something that last season I think there was more there. And with the Madueke or whatever it might be, I'm really curious who starts against Leeds. I wonder if there might be some changes. The Basher, this was not the game to play your two attacking fullbacks at the same time. How bad does Odegaard have to be subbed? Well, I probably disagree with both of those. In terms of the attacking fullbacks, I think that was a lot to do with the spaces. I think United, the way they use their fullbacks, I think we're trying to target those spaces in behind. Also because they play their combination play, they try their combination stuff out wide. And so for me, you then want more of the runny type fullbacks who can deal with that, because that's not a 1v1 situation for a Miles and Timber to deal with. They're going to be passed around, so they need the athletic capacity. So that's why I think he did it, and I actually thought they were great, to be honest. I don't agree on Odegaard. Sorry, the Basher. I thought Odegaard, again, we mentioned this earlier, I thought his execution was a bit off, but actually fitness-wise, he looks a lot leaner, a lot sharper to me. But what do you think, George?
I thought the attacking fullbacks was fine, to be honest. I agree with you. I think when you have a back three, the spaces between the wing back and the third center back in general, and so you're looking to push on and find the space back there. If anything, it's quite an attacking impetus, so that when they're strong out wide, you push them back so that they can't use their own strength. Whereas if you had kind of those lockdown defenders, I would have talked more about like a Mahrez, that Leicester team with Vardy and Mahrez. I would have looked for more lockdown defenders in that scenario where you've got one major threat out wide. But when you've got a system that prioritizes that, I think threatening them on the back foot is important. Yeah, and then on Odegaard, I think, look, the frustration with the Odegaard thing is because there were a lot of times on counters that he was not providing the correct pace of pass. And, either holding on to it too long, not passing into space effectively. But I agree with you. Like, I thought he was one of our more effective attackers in general, if not clearly our best attacker. There was a beautiful scoop pass towards the end that Saka lashes in the second half. That was a brilliant piece of play.
It could have been the assist. You know what I mean? It was really nice.
Yeah, and again, was running all match. He was incredible, like absolutely elite out of possession. So I don't know if he was just horrible, but he definitely frustrated in things that we know that he frustrates in. But at the same token, like, I think he was one of our best attackers, period, which doesn't say much because I don't think our attackers did well, but still was our best attacker.
One of my frustrations maybe with Odegaard, it actually relates to that first point around, because United prioritize those sort of wide triangles in a different location, but a similar way to us with the White Odegaard Saka connection, that creates the space essentially where if you can get Ugarte and Casemiro on an island running backwards or Bruno, that's where you can thrive. And I felt like we didn't do that. If we did win the ball out there, there were big spaces and we'd reset and recycle. And that's where I want an Odegaard to be available and play those first time passes through to a Gyökeres or a Martinelli, especially when you're playing Gyökeres and Martinelli and you're not trying to find them early. It feels silly to me. Simple game life. Glad the Prem is back. Not the best performance, but getting a win at a notoriously hard ground has its merit. Always hard to hit the ground running first game in. Yeah, and I think there was definitely, I think maybe players like Madueke, but I think at times the Saliba and Gabriel situation we've spoken about, I think there is an aspect of it. It's just, it is the first game back. You're getting back into that rhythm of playing 3 times a week. And what you lose 3 times a week for fitness-wise that we always spoke about, or sharpness or whatever, you gain in touch. Like you're just consistent. It's more. You're just more on it, and you're less sort of thinky, and you're just playing. So yeah, I think we'll find that balance over the course of the season. I'm hesitant to make any early narratives, but I think the touch stuff, I don't worry about this team from a technical perspective. I think we're a fantastic team. It was an off day for us, but I'm not ripping up anything based on what I've seen last year. DRG, Yok has to get his fitness and sharpness. Member for 26 months. Thank you, DRG. You're an OG. Yok has to get his fitness, sharpness on the bench, in my opinion. Havertz very classy, assured performance in comparison. Let's just hope it's fitness and betting in issues. Yeah, we spoke a little bit about this earlier in terms of playing to Gyökeres' strengths. I think also, you have to allow for a player to it has to have an adaptation period. I've already seen people, and it's a nice thing, but people saying, "Oh, your concerns are Gyökeres, I see them," or whatever. Fine. It's been a couple of games. Like, let's not do anything. Even if he'd scored 15 goals or, scored 3 own goals and got sat on the bench for 15 games. Either way, we have to see this play out. We have to see how Arsenal adapt to him. We have to see how he responds to things. I thought the interview with Mikel speaking to, I think it's the guy, I think it's like Rog from Men in Blazers, I think it was. He was talking about the conversation he had with him where he just looked down and he was talking about the data I wanted was how it was in his eyes. And if this game again had happened mid-season, I wonder a fit and firing, adapted Gyökeres with, maybe Odegaard and Rice on what we maybe feel is the right size and all those sorts of things, how he would approach this game. Because I looked at him in the tunnel and I thought, okay, this is a guy who's ready to go out and make his mark. Didn't happen for him. And the fact that United fans are booing him, that tells you something. It tells you something. And he will not like that, but he will respond to that. He seems like the sort of character who will. So, yeah, I think that there's something coming for Gyökeres. It just depends on what it is and depends how we adapt to him. Why does Rye keep going on to Gyökeres? Yeah, we spoke about that a little bit from Brainiac, just in terms of the adaptation. I thought Havertz did pretty well when he came on. Zombler says expected growing pains from new strats and players. Stars, maybe?
I don't know. I'm normally good at trying to mind read that. I'm a little bit lost, but yeah, maybe stars.
New starts maybe from Zubimendi. We haven't spoken about Zubimendi. I just think he's adapting. I think similar to Gyökeres, I think I could just see him. There was a couple of moments of the camera cut.
Maybe.
Possibly, yeah. There was a moment when the camera cut to him and he was doing this. You could see like he's a fantastic player, but I just think he probably needs a little bit of time to adjust to the freneticism of the Premier League. I one of the things that I wish football fans could like, and I wonder if there's like a VR thing we could do. How quick the game is. Like when you're up and you're watching it, you don't. If you're in the game, how quick it is. It's unbelievable the pace of things, and you could sort of see it when the camera cuts down, and you're sort of watching things happen in real time. The response times to the actions is crazy, and I just think it's going to take some time for Zubimendi because it's not really what he's used to. Let's do this. The stats and field tilt is going to be crazy. Who cares? We dominated the stats too much last season and didn't get results. Yes, I think we would probably agree with you there. I think we've sort of spoken about that on the show so far. Gyökeres played well, in my opinion, was finding channels and winning fouls, still working out connections. Simon Hooper was embarrassingly bad. Do I respond, George? He was fine. He was fine with it. The problem is, right, and I think about this, you remember last season where the whole we're being targeted. Even if I'm wrong, okay, and let's say I'm wrong, and Arsenal are being targeted. If that wasn't the case, I'm not going to convince anyone on an Arsenal channel, on a post-match, on an Instagram. You know what I mean? No one's going to... It's not a good audience for people to go, yeah, man, I hear your point. So I'm just going to drop it. I'm just going to drop it. It's fine. Missed my comment, Alex. I did not, John, but thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Odegaard was killing us on the transitions, but at this point, is it his fault or Arteta's for his insistence on playing him like this? Also, why Ethan 0 minutes, George?
I don't know if I found this was the game for it. We were struggling. We needed our press to function. That wasn't functioning. I love Ethan. I just don't think that this was the match for it. I think he would have done better in moments in transition in terms of the release, but what Odegaard was doing in terms of putting pressure on United's back line in the last 5, 10, 15 minutes is exactly what we needed. And if anything, it would have been like a Norgard or something like that to really shore up the last 5, 10 minutes, because, you know, for me, they were pushing on. So I didn't think it was the moment. If we see something like this versus Leeds, I am with you, Ethan, and earlier, please. But I just don't think it was the game for it.
Yeah. Andre says halftime interviews are so woke.
Retweet. So ridiculous. So ridiculous.
I actually thought Odegaard gave some interesting. Like I thought he'd just be like, "Yeah, we're just going to try hard in the second half." Yeah, okay, bye. But it was actually like quite honest about the game, which is I think there will be some corkers.
My response to halftime interviews is, "That's it.
Done it again." If I was Gyökeres, I'll be fuming off at 60 minutes after getting no service in the derby match at the start of the season, hoping we do better. Yeah, I imagine he will be.
Frustrated.
I would get that. I would completely hear that. But all you can do, he has a moment where he's through, the ball gets trapped under him. Yeah. And how many moments do you get in a Premier League match? You get 2 if you're lucky, is that, where you're clean on goal and you have a moment to create a bit of separation. You have to do those. So if he's finishing those, I think he's valid. But yeah, so as I say, we're such early days, and with one of the things on our, well, certainly my concerns in terms of the adaptation, I think his adaptation period will be longer. I wonder if we'll see the best of Gyökeres maybe even next year. Like, if I really do. So yeah, I think it might take some time. Lies La Bonita. Ref had a stinker. Zubimendi elbowed and played on. Casemiro loses the ball, falls down paralysed, and free kick won. United are Porto reincarnated. George, do you think there's ever been a super chat on a fan-led channel praising a referee? Do you think? What's your bet?
You.
Probably me. Yeah, it was me. It was me on a United channel. I actually thought the ref was really good today. ET AFC forever. If Odegaard could carry the ball, we'd win 4-0 today. Allow it. Do you agree, Alex? Get in there, yeah. The thing is I don't think the carrying was the issue. I actually thought it was evading some. It was the release. I think the carrying was fine for me. It was the releasing that he was struggling with. and the weight of passes I mentioned at the beginning, and George has mentioned. I also and I said this also at the top, the running lines of Martinelli and Gyökeres and it just feels like we all want to operate in the same spaces, which makes sense. I think if Havertz was on, maybe that would have been slightly different. Think that Havertz goal against Man City, like that sort of stuff. I didn't see. I think it feels like we're all trying to wait for the ball. Martinelli feels like he's too narrow for me. Like he's not pulling wide. I don't know. It just doesn't quite make sense to me. Last few super chats. In transition, why does our forward try to go in the middle? There you go. All too tight and has to attack wider. Okay, we agree. Then Ødegaard would have better angles to the pot. Yeah, it feels to me like we're all trying to crush the centre and we're not creating options, or we're creating options too late. It felt like we were waiting. George and I are doing a rewatch on Tuesday. We could have a look at this and see what we think about this for that game, because I think it was certainly something to improve. But it's also an aspect of our game we've never been particularly good at, so we have to look at it. Super Mick says, Ødegaard beyond awful, 50 million touches always. There you go. I think we've covered Ødegaard to death, so we won't go too far. But, football is subjective, my friend. Football is subjective. And Matt says, we beat United at our worst while they are at their best. And that is a lovely place to finish, Matt, because that is true. United will come away from that feeling we had a brilliant game, and we still didn't beat them, and we beat them for the third time in 18 years at Old Trafford.
Big.
We've got to improve. We've got to see improvements against Leeds. But I think with the settling in period, with the first game of the season, with fitness, with the sun in their eyes, I think we should see improvement. Look at that tankard, George. Lovely. Final thoughts before we wrap up?
A win is a win is a win. And at the end of the day, Old Trafford is a fixture that I hate. I have a pit in my stomach at the end of it, and I just want to win. I think that this is one of those that you can put behind as far as performances go. If it becomes a pattern on 2 or 3 games, we will have this discussion as we do at the end of every instant reaction on the Cannon podcast. However, I think that this is just one of those that you look at 3 points. We got away with one, and we've been asking, when is the last time that Arsenal have done that? Well, here we go. We got it. So you can't sit there and say, I hate not getting what I want, and I kind of hate getting what I want because I didn't like the performance. But that's essentially it. That is where I will leave it. A win is a win is a win. 3 points. We move on. We start talking about performance versus Leeds, and that's where I'm at.
Yep. We finish 6th in the Premier League table, I believe, behind Sunderland. Sack him tonight. Thank you all for being here on the Instant Reaction. As we say, we're here for after every single Arsenal game. Make sure you check out all the other good stuff. We've got a rewatch coming next week. We've got, obviously, back to TCB Live. We'll have a main pod for you on Tuesday. And loads of other stuff coming for you on the Cannon podcast. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, patrons and YouTube members, for supporting us. Thank you, George.
Thank you, good sir.
And thanks for keeping it Arsenal.
Tens of thousands of football fans came to Highbury. This was one kind of queue the ladies thoroughly enjoyed. Electrifying. Electrifying. Inspiration.